Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Imizizi Conversations, and welcome back to me. Yay! Thank you for everybody who's been watching still. For anybody who's new to our Imizizi Conversation, I'm Mponeng from Imizizi. Imizizi is a people management company, and we like to talk more about the whole person, and this is why the conversations came by the way, because we realized that there's more to a person than just work. So anyways, today I am with Lerato Moselane, head of mobile services at DVT.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I've actually been looking forward to this conversation because you are a well-known speaker. So I'm a bit feel like you're going to be training me a little bit as well in the talkings.
You are brilliant at this. I've seen a couple of your videos. So,
Thank you. So today's topic, our theme is tech and people. And today's topic is technology for you? Yay or nay? I found this quite interesting because I was just like, we're in such a technologically advanced era that I don't think anybody has stopped to ask, is this something that I actually want to do with my life? You know what I mean? Like, I want to have in my life, not to do with my life, sorry.
Yes.
So tell me why you thought of this particular topic.
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. So it's a particularly interesting one because I've always been an advocate of tech, but I found myself recently really wondering what's the end goal of technology. So you're talking about knowing the person and engaging the person with Imizizi conversations. So just, you already know about me that I'm a dad of 2 kids, and I've seen how my kids have been engaging with technology recently, and it got me thinking about a lot of things, right? Is it the right age for them to be engaging with technology or not? We know the likes of Steve Jobs, it's well documented that he would not let his kids anywhere near a tablet, even though he was making all of these really cool products. It got me thinking about those things, and it got me thinking about the way that I engage with technology. And I started realizing that more and more we are letting our lives become controlled by technology. Technology is becoming so convenient. It's becoming something that we really can't live without. You find that you go throughout the day, and if you don't have your phone with you for
you feel like you're lost.
Feel like, exactly. So I had a point of reflection, and I started really questioning and asking myself and introspecting and wondering, what's the end goal? Where is this all leading to? I'm sure you know the story, the old story about the frog. It just comes to mind. So if you had to take a frog and throw it into boiling water, the frog would immediately jump out. I'm sorry, it's don't imagine it again. But if you have to take the same frog, put it in a pot of cold water, and slowly but surely, crank up the heat.
I think that's always the most gruesome thing for me. Like, I just feel like it's so cruel and evil. Like, it just sits there until it dies.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It dies. So I mean, it's similar, I think, with technology as well. Over time, we get so comfortable with technology that we actually don't realize. We wake up one day and we think, oh snap, my entire life is actually run by the small device or by these tech companies, etc.
And it's interesting that you ask that, to what end, because of the actual definition of technology, which is, it has a lot to do with improving human ability and the way of living and being. I actually wrote it down here. Technology is how people modify the natural world to suit their own purposes. You know what I mean? And it's supposed to be like a craft and an art. So it's from a Greek word techne, right? Yes. And it's quite interesting because from the actual definition of technology, there is no end. And I'm thinking about it in the sense that we build an app, and then you realize, there might be some security issues, so you build another thing to make sure that the security. And then a hacker comes and is like, there's always a build up and a build up and a build up. And for me, I completely resonate with your concern, especially with kids and security. And I always wonder, how do you now as a person know whether technology is for you or not? Like, what are the things that you would, as a person in IT
Yes,
look out for
Yeah.
to be like, okay, I can use it to this level.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I hear you completely, yeah. And it's actually interesting when you read that definition of technology as, to suit your purposes. But I almost feel like tech companies have got their own purpose that they drive. So at the end of the day, it's not for our own purposes. Yes, there may be that functionality, but that's a conversation for another day. Let me come back to your question. So I think in terms of security, right, you made a great example about building another product to manage the security on your devices, etc. But I think we can build products and build security libraries and packages until the cows can come home. But unless we train people to change their behavior and understand the risks that come with devices, we're always going to be building newer and newer packages and so on. Because hackers, I mean, these are really, really smart people that have got all the time in the world, and especially people that fish for information. So a simple thing like you walking in a mall or I don't know, in a shopping center, and somebody stops you and they say, "Hi, how are you? What is your name? Where do you live? Do you have any kids?" You might think it's a friendly conversation, and here you are giving out your name, Mponeng Seshea, and they ask you about your children, and you think, "Wow, this person's very friendly. Yes, I've got kids, and these are their names." At the end of the day, somebody's there hacking you on social media, trying out different passwords, because now you've given them your names, your children's names. They can play with different variations. They'll ask you, "By the way, when is your birthday? What star sign are you?"
Oh,
and
my
all of
word.
those things.
And then you're thinking, oh, my
Exactly.
goodness, so interested in me.
Yeah, and it's very, very simple. So it's simple things like that people need to become aware of. What type of information you divulge, when you divulge, to whom you divulge that information. And so security starts there, and it starts with our children as well, teaching them, yes, don't talk to strangers, but also, the kind of conversations.
On the tech now, and then it becomes a problem because, like, if someone is on TikTok, because all the kids are on TikTok, it's crazy. And you might, always look at, I don't know if you can look at who they're following, because I've tried to securitize it as much as I can. But they click on certain things, and then someone sends them a pop-up, and then there's a link, and I mean, we know those is the base of security. Don't click a link that you don't know where it comes from, type of things. But kids don't know. Do you know what I mean?
That is true.
Some kids will find themselves in a WhatsApp group because there's this thing called Roblox. I don't know if you know it.
Roblox. I played with my kids, but continue.
And it's apparently a whole world, right?
Yes.
But then there's Roblox money.
Yes, Robux.
That you need to Robux.
Yes.
And my kids have been wanting Robux. I'm like, I'm not giving you money for a game. Me, I'm not that parent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I found out that there's apparently these WhatsApp groups where I don't know how they click the link, they join the WhatsApp group, but they're like, if you want Robux, join this WhatsApp. And it's like a whole group. And you sit there and you're like, so if you do not have the instinct to continuously monitor your kids, then there's those security risks.
Yes.
But in the same breath, and I think for me, for this conversation, I'll take the yay, you'll take the nay.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay. In the same breath, where do we start and stop and say, this is good for me, but that one is bad for me? Because then with technology, you've kind of bulked it all into one. So if I'm saying technology is great for me, I'll tell you that, now I've got a phone. And it's easy to talk to my mom who's in the Eastern Cape. Life has become more convenient because, it's a bit of a risk, but I can pay with my phone. I've got apps on my phone. I can transact on my phone. But then again, it's a risk because I shouldn't be giving you pointers. So where do you, Moselane, say it's nay? It's in the technology. You must just go back to basics. What would basics look like?
Yes, I love the fact that you started out with that definition of technology, and part of that definition talks about purpose. To something around to fulfill your desired purpose or something like that. Yes.
To suit their own purposes, yes.
To suit your own purposes. Thank you for that. Yeah. So for me, it probably starts there. What is the intended purpose? How will it suit the purpose that I want to use it for? You mentioned calling your mom. That's the purpose is for communication, to stay in touch with your loved one. I guess if it fulfills that purpose, then it's a yay. But if it somehow takes away or distracts me to a large extent, maybe I'm on TikTok and I keep swiping and watching the next video, before you know it, 3 hours have passed. Again, it speaks to self-discipline, I suppose. But again, things like that are rather distracting and takes away from other things that I should be doing, maybe paying more attention to my family, my kids, etc. And I end up just being glued to this device. Not to say that I do that, by the way, but I'm just making an example. Then the purpose there is not good. So one needs to reflect, and that's where the nay comes in, because now it's deterring from a purpose which is good. So that's where I would evaluate and say, to what end is this product leading me to, or this device or this app that I'm using? And if it's not a good end, then I need to have the discipline and say,
so mindfulness within
exactly.
using technology.
Yes, that's good.
But now, then there's people who are like, I'm getting paid, guys, just talking, and again, there's a yay there where you're saying that there's more means of employment now because of technology. But so for me, where then would the nay there be? Social media, I can think of a very easy nay, because people will talk and they'll say nasty things about other people just for viewership.
Yes.
But we're building. I can't think of a nay. Maybe you can help me think of a nay with technology and employment.
And employment, wow. Employment is such a... people need jobs, people need to eat, people need to have gainful employment. So that's a very tough one that you're giving me there. But I'm trying to think of a nay here, right? So a lot of the times we tend to solve immediate problems. Let's solve the problem today, and the problem today is that I need to eat today, I need to have some income today. And maybe I'm trying to build a fortune over time as well. It doesn't just have to be today. But again, to what end? And that's the question I always keep coming back to. So if I'm going to start a social media page, and I can think of a couple of people that I've seen recently online, I won't mention names, but their job is just to speak badly about other people, and people seem to love this gossip, and to suck these things up, and they enjoy this sort of trash talking about other people and so on, and they gain all this following and this viewership, and they're obviously making a lot of money from that, but at the end of the day, things like that hurt society. They hurt people, because now you're talking badly about other people, you're making money at their expense, So, and it's not just on social media, it's not just technology. I guess there are a lot of jobs like that out there that have got nothing to do with technology, but they feed one person, but they hurt the other person. You can think of things where we actually mining products and tearing down trees to make furniture, etc. So some things are not necessary, but we do it anyway for profits, but at the end of the day, we're still hurting the environment. So I guess, what I'm trying to say is that it's human nature to want to self-preserve. And sometimes we do it at the expense of other people, even at our own expense without us realizing it.
Don't you think, though, especially with technology, don't you think we're getting to a point where, I'm just drawing on the self-preservation. Because now, we've been watching with these movies. I had a realization the other day that, I'm in the world that I used to watch as a kid.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I was driving down the highway, and it's like, red lights and these, but it looked like something that as a child I'd be like, oh wow, this is so cool and la 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 la. And I'm wondering, when will we realize that we've reached those robots taking over our lives? Will we realize that when it actually happens? Will we do it and try to prevent it because we think it's going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And the self-preservation there comes in us then getting to a point. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where we are creating clones of ourselves? Because technology will probably be able to allow it.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I think I'll probably refer to that really bad example about the frog that you hate so much, but I think, you know, we are probably the proverbial frog sitting in that water and it's being cranked up. So a lot of the times we're not realizing.
Like, can you just imagine that thing?
I know. Okay, I'll find another example, hopefully before the end of the conversation, so we can get the frog out of your mind. But I think we are not realizing it, but things are slowly changing. And again, a lot of it is seen as you know, coming from a point of necessity, and I'll explain what I mean by that, right? So an example is, and this is a good use case. You know, if we look at technology, we look at dangerous jobs like mining, etc., where we are saying, hey, let's create robots so that we can save lives. You know, but then on the other hand, we know that robots can be exploited and, you know, work a lot harder 24/7 without resting. But you know, we slowly invest in that technology and build that technology, and that now replaces jobs, and people are moved out of those jobs. Again, you know, simple use case, very, very good use case. But again, the idea is saving lives, you know, and so we love it, you know. Yes, we want to save and preserve human life, you know, let's go for it. Another example, and maybe if I can just take us a little back in terms of history, if you look at let's look at some really key milestones probably that has led us to where we are in terms of social media. So if you think about you know, back in 2001, September 11, that happened in the US, right? So prior to that, privacy was a big thing in America. I think even in the probably 1950s or 60s or something like that, or 70s, there was a time where the government was tapping civilian phones and listening in on conversations. Eventually there was a ruling to say, hey, people need their privacy, you know, don't be tapping phones, and so it became illegal in the States to do that. Yeah.
But is it illegal? Yeah.
In South Africa, it is illegal, I suppose. I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure it is. So it's crazy. So fast forward to 2001. 9/11 happens, and America now becomes anti-terrorist, right? So we must do anything and everything to fight terrorism. So now certain laws get passed where now the government is saying, hey, in order for us to be proactive and fight terrorism, we need to be doing some sort of surveillance, you know. And so because now the American people are hurt, this has happened, people see it as necessary now to give up certain privacy rights, okay, because now it's all in the name of fighting terrorism. And it's around about the time where you've got these social media companies that are also coming up as well, you know, the likes of Facebook, etc., that came up, and it just became this thing where it became more and more simple for us to give up certain privacy rights, because now there's a greater good, right? And the greater good is us fighting terrorism, you know. Again, you know, it's something that is birthed out of necessity, right? But at the end of the day, it's you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So again, coming back to your example about robots and so forth, I think, yeah, we more and more we at a point where we feel there's a necessity to have machines and have artificial intelligence, etc. But I think one day, I don't know if we're going to wake up and realize, hey, you know, but I think we're becoming so accustomed to it and used to that way of living that it's just going to seem like normal.
I know.
Our kids are going to see it as normal. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter, I remember asking me why the sign of a phone call looks like that.
Yes.
And I'm like, what do you mean? It looks like a phone.
Oh, snap, I never thought.
But she had never seen a phone, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And I was just like, oh my goodness, you guys are like, you know nothing about nothing.
Yes.
And yesterday I was having a conversation with someone, and they were like, oh no. And I was asking them why they hadn't done what they wanted to do. And the person is like, no, I was going to do it BC. I'm like, before Christ? Because that's the BC I know.
Yes.
He's like, no, before COVID.
Oh, wow.
But apparently he's like, but then don't you know BC also means before computers? I'm like, when did we not have computers?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, when I did think about it in my childhood, there was no computers. There was no access to such things. And when we came into, what is it, 2K? I can say if you were in the, and everyone was like, oh, we're going to die.
Yes. Yeah, computers are going to crash the world.
Computers are going to crash the world.
Yeah.
To where we are now. And I'm just trying to think, Uti, like how different is our lives? How different our lives have been before computers
yes.
versus now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And would you not say though that we're in a much better position now?
Wow.
That computers have been there's access to computers, there's access to internet.
Yes.
You know, those are small things that I didn't think about, to be like there was no Google searches before.
Yes.
Which brings us to another whole topic about data, but how different was it?
Wow, that's debatable. And again, I guess it depends from which viewpoint you're looking at it. By the way, my mom likes to use BT before technology, so that's another one. So just
there's a lot, and it would be interesting for me to find out from your mother what did that look like. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
When she says it, what is she usually referring to?
Well, I think for her, and maybe if I can marry it with your question, answer your question as I relay her experiences, that for her, we become so immersed in technology. I remember with both my kids, she would often make a remark that you guys are Google parents, you know. My opinion and my experience in terms of how to rear kids and then raise them and so on doesn't really matter. You guys just Google everything. Google tells you exactly how to raise your kids and so on. So if you really think about that, it's both scary and interesting at the same time. Interesting in the sense that there's a plethora of information. There's information everywhere, and you've got experience and advice from so many different people in the world, I suppose, and experts. You've got access to experts and so forth that publish this information, and so that's a good thing, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of nonsense as well, which might not be helpful. So you need to have a filter. Whereas one could say, hey, arguably I could listen to my mom. But times have also changed from where she's coming from. So again, that's just an interesting one there. And now I think I'm diverting from your question. Maybe you can just remind me.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? That's fine. But I think just looking. Oh yeah, you were asking, are we better off today?
Yes.
But I think, and I was saying that it depends from where you stand, right? And like I was saying to you, and in my opening as well, that I've been doing a lot of introspection and wondering, is technology for me, is it good for me, yay or nay? And just reflecting on my upbringing versus how my children are being brought up. We used to play a lot outside. We used to explore a lot. Yes, today, unfortunately, in the country that we live in, the city that we live in, there's unfortunately a lot of crime, and so kids can't experience life the way that we experienced it. And unfortunately, they have a lot of exposure to technology, and so we didn't have exposure to that. But life is certainly very, very different from where we come from versus to where we are today. So it really is debatable, Seshea, to say, are we better off today or not really? I think there are definitely advantages in that there is, going back to the data thing, there's a lot of information that is accessible at our fingertips, right? At the same time, we become smarter, but we're also becoming dumber as well. And I'll explain what I mean by that, right? So a simple example is we becoming so reliant on Google products, Google Maps. I remember driving around Joburg, Gauteng, before Google Maps was a thing, and I could tell you how to get to point A, point B, different suburbs. I knew the routes.
I did that.
And I could remember.
I sucked though, because I wasn't very good at reading maps.
Yeah.
So having to be like, okay, I'm here. am I up or
Down,
down?
yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun
Yeah, it
getting
was
to
fun.
know Joburg.
Exactly.
You know, using a map and
Yeah.
then remembering the street names and remembering
exactly.
yeah.
We relied a lot on our memory. You know, it's amazing how much potential we have and how powerful our brains are.
And now we're not using them
We're
at
not
all
using them,
because I would never even calculate a 10% with my mind. Like I'll literally instinct. I take my phone.
Yeah. Nowadays we just outsource the thinking to to our mobile phones and to browsers, Google, etc. You
That's
know,
true.
we do very little thinking. So in that sense, yes, there's convenience that is added, but at the same time, I feel like we are not really progressing so much, but rather digressing, but regressing, yeah. In terms of our thinking capacity, our capability, we become a lot lazier. And, you know, in terms of thinking, it's something to watch out for. Yeah.
It's quite amazing. You say that we are getting lazier, and yet we're producing tech that's getting smarter. And someone would argue that if I am, developing an app that's going to be smart, I'm smart. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But so then, does it become that like a portion of the population remains smart because they're constantly thinking about what next, how do I make this better, whereas we are just consuming. Would it be the consumers that are getting a bit, because you're just chilling to a point where you can go for like an hour or two, literally just looking at pictures of people in their lives and saying Sabawal.
Yes, Sabawal. Yeah, Sabawal to me, those people. So is it a fear that's where we're going to get to? Do you know what I mean? Yes. And I think, we are essentially products at the end of the day. We were speaking earlier about, how some people are making money off technology, etc. People are becoming rich off of it, creating employment, etc. But at the end of the day, to what end? There's always some good to it. There's always some bad to it. I think we really need to evaluate and say, as a human race, as a society, is it progressing us or taking us back? Yes, as people are making money, they're creating employment, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it's really serving us as much as we'd like to think. Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
I can actually jump on to the nay, because I think you might have been convincing, but especially with the kids part, because I'm always constantly on some get off your phones, stop watching TV, go play outside, and they'll literally always ask for how long. So like, okay, I can do this task as long as I'm gonna come back to what I know and what I like, and to the point that my daughter was showing me all these memes of parents saying, get off your phone, get off your computer, I'll play outside. And she was like, oh, look how smart this child is. He took his whole desk and put it outside and continued gaming outside. Because the mom was like, go play outside. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
And then her argument, actually, funny enough, was technology is not making us dumber because look how smart he is. He thought of an idea. And the other one was, I could say they were supposed to be eating dinner in the lounge, but he was sitting in the kitchen because he was playing. So the mother's like, no, you can't play and eat at the same time. You either eat. So he lay across the door. So you could be eating. Exactly. So, and I always say to them, Guti, as long as you're constantly then trying to use your mind and still going outside and doing the things that you need to do that are not, you're not just, consuming, but you're also contributing somehow to your own life and to what's going to happen in the future. And maybe because of the worry of the 1% who are going to remain smart, I started making them code. I brought them coding books and computers, and they attend class. But then it just for me means that we're constantly then again we're almost perpetuating the idea that technology is not going to go away. Therefore, even my children must just learn how things are done and how to be. And if you would sit and think about the Aboriginals, did I say that?
Yes,
Aborigines people. I said it right.
Yes, the Aborigines, yeah.
And they have no technology whatsoever. You know what I mean? And yet they're living very fulfilling lives.
Yes.
How do we start showing that? How do we start encouraging that more than just saying to our kids, stop playing outside?
Yes,
How do we show them that other world of there's so much more outside if you stop looking at your phone and just look over the screen?
Yeah. Wow. You make a very good point. Yes, because human beings, I guess, in this day and age, and with technology in particular, it focuses on a certain aspect of humanity. But we as human beings are such, we're very diverse, we're very multidimensional. And I think that one of the critical aspects that suffer is that interpersonal aspect, that it seems like society is almost breaking down because there's less of this human interaction and more of that interaction. Even the communication and the interaction is becoming more and more virtual as opposed to physical. So you touch on a good thing, on a good point, because we need to be very cognizant and aware of that. And so how do we teach our children that, right? If you have an answer, let me know. But I think
you're doing me.
But I mean, what I'm finding with my children, right, is I think and maybe people might disagree with me in terms of this parenting style, but I find sometimes I have to entice them with the reward, right? So like if let's go to the park. When we're at the park, they love the park, by the way, but I'm just giving an arbitrary example. I can say, you guys will get to drive, and they love driving the car.
How are they going to drive the car?
They do drive the car, though.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, literally drive.
Your car?
Yes, my big, massive car. I'm serious.
Though. I get it, you must give details now. People are going to be putting kids in front of the steering wheel.
Okay. It is illegal, by the way. I'm incriminating myself. Yeah. No, guys, but I think it's a good skill to, I don't know, survival to teach children. So my 10-year-old boy has been driving since I think he was 8, or since he could reach the pedals.
No way can you reach the pedals with that car.
He's a tall boy, so he reaches the pedals and he drives, so he drives perfectly fine. I don't let him drive on any roads. Okay. So it's always when we're at the park or out in nature somewhere where there aren't people around, other cars around. So I do it within reason. I'll never let him drive on the road until he's got his learners. My daughter, on the other hand, she can also steer, but she can't reach the pedals yet. So normally she'll just sit on my lap. She does all the steering while I control the pedals. Yeah. So it's things like that. They enjoy that a lot. Going to the park. Yeah, we're gonna get to drive and they drive. But at the same time, we get to play and have a walk, etc. And we like to use our imagination a lot. So if we're in the park and we're in nature, we'll pretend to be characters or whatever from their favorite movie, and play with that imagination anyway. So it's good for kids to develop their imagination as well. So it ends up becoming a lot of fun. So I think what is critical, and what I'm trying to say is, as parents, we need to be involved with their play. It's very easy for us to say, hey, go play outside. Kids are okay, they might do it, they might be like, nah, I'd rather be watching something. But I find whenever I'm involved in their play and I'm out there with them, they're most likely to agree to it and have a lot of fun with it,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we must be playing as well,
Yes,
which is not a bad thing
It's not a
actually,
bad
because
thing,
we are
yeah.
always just looking at our screens
Exactly.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had a point and now it just escaped me. And I was gonna do it like such a beautiful nay. But anyways,
it's interesting how we've switched. Yeah.
Because so one of the things I was thinking about as well is how technology has made the world smaller. I remember seeing a video on YouTube, and they were showing how there could be shared classes, like with different people in the world. So a child in China can write rain in Chinese, and then it would translate it to a child this side as rain. You know, so they start learning to learn their languages and learn each other, which I think one of the things for me in any case is that there's so many boundaries with humanity. There's, you know, black and white, boy and girl, and then even within black, Xhosa, Sotho, we just have so many divisions, which someone would argue that technology has removed those barriers to an extent, where I can now, you know, if it happens, I don't know if it's going to happen. There was a video on YouTube, I don't know if it will happen, but they were talking about the imagination and the creativity, but from different aspects in the different parts of the world, where kids are now coming together, and it isn't a I don't know how to even say hello in Chinese. Mandarin. I know I know how to say bye in Korean.
Okay.
Krom.
Nice and simple.
But so in that space, I can't see where an A would be, where we're breaking down boundaries and we're finally bringing people together. I mean, we're not bringing them together physically, but kids can start learning things that they don't know about. You know what I mean?
Okay. No, I have to agree with you on that one. So again, what's the purpose there? It's a good purpose. You know, I think it's towards a good end, and that is uniting humanity and, like you say, breaking barriers with kids and helping them to see the world from other children's eyes and perspectives, and different countries, and understanding different cultures and so forth. So that's a beautiful yay right there.
If there is a debate in Gabeguin, I would have had a proper point of winning.
Yeah, that's actually, you probably get 10 points just for that one. Yeah, it's very good.
You mentioned earlier actually about data and how there's so much data for us to just Google and say, child is sick, give me the answer. And now the world, I think, is moving more towards AI and data. It's becoming such a big thing, but data, what's the English word? Almost mining, almost like data mining. And there, I can say that there could be a bit of concerns, because what are you mining this data for? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So in that regard, what are some of the things that we should really, really be watching out for to give out? You made a beautiful example earlier. Someone talks to you and say, what's your name? You know, how many kids do you have? Because then they're going to go try many things to do to fish your information. But now we are giving it to them, especially with the apps.
We are.
The apps, we've given them our faces. There was an app, I don't know if it was real or not. Apparently there was an app that you'd do and then it'd make you look like an old person.
Yes.
But there was apparently a disclaimer somewhere to say that they now own, the schematic of your face type vibes.
Oh, I can believe that, So, and that's a trade-off, right? So these apps give us this cool functionality, this convenience, but the trade-off is you give them your information, and unfortunately these days a lot of your biometric data is owned by these companies, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped and paused and thought, whoa, this is
something
insane.
happened?
No, nothing happened.
You just had a moment of realization.
Yeah, I think it's been long coming, and I'm just seeing where the world is going, and maybe that's a conversation for another day, but it's interesting where the world is going globally, and the amount of information they already have on us, and the amount of information we keep giving to them, So it's quite interesting. I mean, that face app, a good example. I mean, Google knows your face. If you upload your pictures to Google Photos or whatever, they already know what you look like. Apple knows you if you use that facial recognition.
Face,
yeah, they know your
fingerprints.
kids. They know exactly. They know everything about you. You mentioned that you use Apple Pay. They know how you spend your money. So these companies, they know a lot more about you than what your kids know about you, your partner, than what you even know about yourself sometimes. You know, because they can remember what you Googled and searched, and they can remember. Maybe if you went through a bad phase in your life, or you went through a good phase because you probably posted about it, and
also
so
the
on.
things you searched.
The things that you searched, etc. You know, asking Google for advice and things like that. So it's actually interesting and very scary, the amount of information and data that they actually know about us. And yeah, like I'm saying, that's why I kind of stopped to pause and think and thought, is tech for me, yay or nay? Maybe I need to really start limiting my use of technology, or at least the apps that I use. But at the same time, it almost feels like it's a bit too late.
I was going to ask.
The horse has bolted.
I was going to ask that, like, now if I were to be like, you know, you've convinced me, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, where do you even begin? Like, do you just get off social media because that's the easiest thing to do? But again, to your point, I open my phone using my fingerprint or my face, so they already have that information. There's a terminology for this thing. Where is, like, are we at a point where it's too far, it's too late?
Yeah,
do we just give it up?
The horse has bolted. It seems. Yeah, the train has left the station, but. I think there is something we can do, especially considering social media. Maybe one needs to limit their use of social media going forward, or maybe get off social media completely. There are some browsers that you can use. I can think of products like DuckDuckGo as opposed to Google, and yeah, just you know, limit the amount of information that you put out there. Yes, I already know what you look like, unfortunately, but there are things that one can certainly do. Again, it might be at the cost of convenience, like we spoke about the trade-off, you know, that a lot of things have become a necessity and become so convenient that we feel like we can't do without. But unfortunately, we are the product at the end of the day. Another thing is, you know, those end user license agreements, nobody reads those things.
No,
yeah,
you just click yes and then
where's the
move
agree
on.
button?
But the first time I actually did read it, this was actually quite scary. My Gmail account, I logged off because I thought someone was doing funny things on my Gmail, right? So I logged off, but then on my phone I wanted to log back into my mails. And for the first time, I actually read that thing that says Microsoft requires access, and they listed the access. And I mean, one of the things was compose, edit, and delete emails. I'm like, why would you be composing emails on my behalf? What kind of email would you be composing? But then it made me think how many times I've accepted those things without reading.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And that's so scary.
It is scary. It is scary. And so... And then we're surprised, you know, when our information's out there and sold and we're an actual product, but we've agreed to those things and more that we don't even know about, you know. So some of the stuff they haven't even started making use of yet, but they, like you mentioned, data mining, but they're mining all of this information about you. Yeah, but it's an interesting world that we are moving towards. You mentioned AI, etc. And we're talking about facial recognition. I'm thinking of a really scary scenario of deep fakes. I don't know if you know the deep fake technology. It's becoming so because of all of this. Again, one of the things that really scare me is we already live in a post-truth society.
Post-truth.
Yeah, it's so easy to just say things online. They don't have to be true. Journalists don't even fact check anything anymore. There's a lot of lies that is published about people, about what's happening in the world, etc. A lot of fake news, and it's become a norm, you know. And the deep fakes are where you take somebody's face and you say things, right? The voice, the face, it looks like the person is saying that, but it's not them. But you could swear that it's them because it's them, but it's not really them. It's a deep fake. That's what it's called, the technology. Yeah. So I mean, think about a scenario where we know your face, we know exactly what you look like, we've mapped it, we can recreate it,
and then
because
post
you've got
something
the algorithms.
on social
Exactly,
media.
and it looks like, hey, Seshea, this is a statement she put out on whatever issues being discussed on the day. And meanwhile, it wasn't even you that said that, Yeah, it was just some algorithm that said it.
There's this thing we like watching with my daughter. It's film theory, film and food theory. So this guy is trying to debunk all these movies, and I was saying to her that this guy sucks because it's ruining most of the movies from my childhood. But anyways, and they shot a thing where they were talking about how Disney now owns the actors' faces. I get it, when they go there, they do those pictures, and they can. So that's why they can recreate, or in a movie where the person is old, they can make them look younger. But he was saying that this guy was saying the scariest thing is if the person dies, passes away, and they still have their image, they have full right to continue using it. But for me, I was just like, how horrible. Can you imagine a new ad coming up with maybe a family relative who's passed away, and there they are on TV? And and it goes to your deep
fake.
Deep fake.
Yes.
Why is it called deep fake?
I suppose it comes from
the fakeness is that deep.
It could be that. I was trying to analyze it and overthink it and think artificial intelligence, deep learning, maybe it's got to do with, and it's fake. I don't know, but maybe it's, I should actually find out why it's called a deep fake. But so there's an actual case against Facebook. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but on Facebook, the Facebook algorithm sometimes, I remember from that case, is that it'll remind you of certain memories. Maybe after a year, it'll post a memory and say a year ago this happened. Right? So there was an incident of a dad who had a small daughter, a toddler, who died in a fire. And about a year later, Facebook on her birthday or something posts something on his page, and it's a sad, happy memory about his daughter. But obviously they didn't know that the daughter's passed away, so that triggered painful memories for the dad. And he wasn't asking for that, and Facebook just goes and posts this thing, right? So he went on, I think, to sue Facebook or something like that for this trauma that they had triggered in him. But yeah, I mean, I think again, technology, it's got to that point where your pictures, your things are just, they use it as and when and how they wish
how they think they want to make sure that
post things on your behalf.
That's crazy that they can post things on your behalf. I didn't know I've never been a Facebook fan personally, and I think for me, and these are the things to your point, the horse has left already, and we've been watching and we'll continue watching when they're creating clones that look like us, and we're like, we're here now.
Exactly.
Because if you think about how random people will call you, and you're just like, how did you get my name, my number? And we never questioned that, because again, we're signing without looking, and we're agreeing without reading anything.
Exactly.
And I suppose we're here now. But as a closing out, just high things that you think people should be aware of, or as they're using the technology, how can they cautiously walk the journey and balance it out?
Yes, I think the first thing is what we're talking about now with kids, and helping them to see the world from other children's eyes and perspectives, and different countries, and understanding different cultures and so forth. So that's a beautiful yay right there.
If there is a debate in Kapeku, I would have a proper point of winning.
Yeah, that's actually, you probably get 10 points or 15 just for that one. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yes.
You mentioned earlier actually about data and how there's so much data for us to just Google and say, child is sick, give me the answer. And now the world, I think, is moving more towards AI, and data is becoming such a big thing. But data, what's the English word? Almost mining, almost like data mining. And there, I can say that there could be a bit of concerns because what are you mining this data for?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So in that regard, what are some of the things that we should really, really be watching out for to give out? Because you made a beautiful example earlier. Someone talks to you and say, "What's your name?
Yes.
You know, how many kids do you have?" Because then they're gonna go try many
Yes.
things to do to fish your information. But now we are giving it to them, especially
Yes.
with the apps.
We are. Yes.
The apps we've given them our faces.
Yes.
There was an app, I don't know if it was real or not. Apparently there was an app that you do and then it'd make you look like an old person.
Yes.
But there was
Face
apparently
app.
a disclaimer somewhere to say that they now own, the schematic of your face
Yes,
type
yes.
vibes.
Oh, I can believe that, yeah.
Mm.
So, and that's a trade-off, right? So these apps give us this cool functionality, this convenience, but the trade-off is you give them your information, and unfortunately these days a lot of your biometric data is owned by these companies, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped and paused and thought, whoa, this
Had
is
something
insane.
happened?
No, nothing happened.
You just had a moment of realization.
Yeah, I think it's been long coming, and I'm just seeing where the world is going, and it's maybe that's a conversation for another day, but it's interesting where the world is going globally, and the amount of information they already have on us, and the amount of information we keep giving to them. So it's quite interesting. I mean, that face app, a good example. I mean, Google knows your face. If you upload your pictures to Google Photos or whatever, they already know what you look like. Apple knows you if you're using that facial recognition.
Face.
Yeah, they know your
fingerprints.
kids. They know exactly. They know everything about you. You mentioned that you use Apple Pay. They know how you spend your money. So these companies, they know a lot more about you than what your kids know about you, your partner, than what you even know about yourself sometimes, because they can remember what you Googled and searched, and they can remember maybe if you went through a bad phase in your life, if you went through a good phase because you probably posted about it, and
also
so
the
on.
things you searched.
The things that you searched, etc. Asking Google for advice and things like that. So it's actually interesting and very scary, the amount of information and data that they actually know about us. And yeah, like I'm saying, that's why I kind of stopped to pause and think and thought, is tech for me, yay or nay? Maybe I need to really start limiting my use of technology, or at least the apps that I use. But at the same time, it almost feels like it's a bit too late.
I was going to ask.
The horse has bolted.
I was going to ask that, like, now if I were to be like, you've convinced me, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, where do you even begin? Like, do you just get off social media because that's the easiest thing to do? But again, to your point, I open my phone using my fingerprint or my face, so they already have that information. There's a terminology for this thing. Are we at a point where it's too far, it's too late?
Yeah,
Do we just give it up?
The horse has bolted, it seems. The train has left the station. But I think there is something we can do, especially considering social media. Maybe one needs to limit their use of social media going forward, or maybe get off social media completely. There are some browsers that you can use. I can think of products like DuckDuckGo as opposed to Google. Just limit the amount of information that you put out there. Yes, they already know what you look like, unfortunately, but there are things that one can certainly do. Again, it might be at the cost of convenience, like we spoke about the trade-off, that a lot of things have become a necessity and become so convenient that we feel like we can't do without. But unfortunately, we are the product at the end of the day. Another thing is, those end user license agreements, nobody reads those things.
No.
Yeah,
we just click yes and then
where's the
move
agree
on.
button?
But the first time I actually did read it, this was actually quite scary. My Gmail account, I logged off because I thought someone was doing funny things on my Gmail, right? So I logged off, but then on my phone, I wanted to log back into my mails. And for the first time, I actually read that thing that says Microsoft requires access, and they listed the access. And I mean, one of the things was compose, edit, and delete emails. I'm like, why would you be composing emails on my behalf? What kind of email would you be composing? But then it made me think how many times I've accepted those things without reading.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And that's so scary.
It is scary. It is scary. And so then we are surprised, you know, when the information's out there and sold and we an actual product, but we've agreed to those things and more that we don't even know about, you know. So some of the stuff they haven't even started making use of yet, but they, like you mentioned, data mining, but they're mining all of this information about you. But it's an interesting world that we are moving towards. You mentioned AI, etc. And we're talking about facial recognition. I'm thinking of a really scary scenario of deep fakes. I don't know if you know the deep fake technology. It's becoming so because of all of this. Again, one of the things that really scare me is we already live in a post-truth society. You know,
post-truth.
It's so easy to just say things online. They don't have to be true. Journalists don't even fact check anything anymore. There's a lot of lies that is published about people, about what's happening in the world, etc. A lot of fake news, and it's become a norm, you know. And the deep fakes are where you take somebody's face.
I suppose we're here now. But as a closing out, just high things that you think people should be aware of, or as they're using their technology, how can they cautiously walk the journey and balance it out?
Yes, I think the first thing is what we're talking about now. Read those end user license agreements. I think it's very important. Understand what it is that you agree to, and at least make an informed decision when you agree to downloading an app, using an app, etc. And be conscious of the fact that yes, it might bring you that convenience or fun or whatever, but at the end of the day, there's a massive trade-off, and you need to be comfortable with yourself that, you know, I'm happy to make that trade-off. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean that we should all do it. Secondly, I think let's get out more. Let's, you know, explore nature, explore the world a lot more. Read physical books a lot more. You know me.
I'm laughing because I was going to say, I'm laughing for you to say that. Do you have more physical books now?
Yes, I'm trying to get
and
more
are you
physical
reading them
books.
now?
Yes, I'm pushing through and reading more physical books now. Because, I mean, with physical books, then I can switch off the mobile phone or go to a remote area with very little reception and still, you know. I guess you could do it on the device flight mode, but physical book a lot better, because if you have the device with you, it's very easy to get tempted to go back into that world. So get out more, read more, socialize more. I think before COVID, we used to do that a lot, and then, you know, the big C happened and we kind of like retreated and everything is all virtual. But I think we need to try and go back to that and do a lot more of this and engaging and talking and having those physical relationships again. That's very important. That's critical. So I think those three things for me are quite big for now.
So we've learned a lot today. I didn't know about deep fakes, but and the scary parts, and I think it is worth just noting, to your point, that there is the part of technology that is assisting, but we don't always have to be so involved in that world. And I think that I liked the way you said that world, because it is a different world. It's like being in Roblox and doing all sorts of funny things there. But it was a very beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
It was very fun.
Yes, definitely.
To everybody else, please note Lerato's comments and be safe, guys. We don't want to see you being deep faked out there. I will be talking about this for a very long time. It's scary, but I didn't know about it. But thank you again for being part of the Imizizi Conversations with us. We'll see you next month.